you can stand proud knowing that the armed forces that you pass on is one that is formidable and empowered. Be assured that as you leave military service, you have inspired others with work and have set an edifying example for the entire institution. Last week, I signed Executive Order number 70, creating the National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict. From the military-centric approach that gave us our recent successes against the communist movement, we now shift to a new civilian-led approach that will tap other government agencies and other private sector in bringing basic services and other development interventions that will address the root cause of the communist movement. General Madrigal, you are now tasked with the responsibility of preserving peace and ensuring order as we shift to this new approach. Sustain the progress of those who came before you and create a legacy that will cause ripples for positive change in the years to come. As we trudge the noble path of realizing lasting peace and sustainable development in our country, I trust that under General Benjamin Madrigal's leadership, the AFP will achieve more milestones in the campaign to combat terrorism and insurgency and address lingering and emerging threats to national security. The Filipino people count on the AFP to remain steadfast in its mission to defend our land and preserve the peace in our communities. Let us not fail them. As I have done in my part to ensure the welfare and well-being of our troops, including their immediate families, I now ask our men and women in uniform to support the leadership of General Madrigal so that we soon realize our aspiration for stronger armed forces and a safer and more secure nation. Congratulations to General Galvez, General Madrigal, at mabuhay ang sandatang lakas ng Pilipinas.
Thank you very much to President Rodrigo Roa Duterte. A memento will be presented to President Rodrigo Roa Duterte by the new Chief of Staff Armed Forces of the Philippines, Lieutenant General Benjamin R. Madrigal Jr.
Once again, the guests may be seated. The memento, the micro-etched Aguinaldo framed glass, hereby presented to President Rodrigo Roa Duterte, President of the Republic of the Philippines and Commander-in-Chief Armed Forces of the Philippines, in grateful appreciation of the President and Commander-in-Chief's untiring and relentless effort in pursuing the modernization of the Armed Forces of the Philippines and unflinching commitment in constantly uplifting the morale of the soldiers, airmen, sailors, marines, civilian human resource, and reservists. It depicts the Camp General Emilio Aguinaldo, which houses the General Headquarters of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, named after Filipino hero and revolutionary leader. Thank you very much. We shall now proceed with the passing review.
Takanang balikat! Ha! Talupad! Unang talupad! Pasulong! Cut! Hit sa kaliwa! Cut!
We'd like to request General Galvez, sir, to proceed down the grandstand for the final review.
Today, this cliche is the following is what everybody feels as we bid farewell to yet another military leader whose contribution and role in the armed forces have been a vital one. General Carlito Quezon Galvez Jr.
As General Galvez relinquished his post, he is assured that his successor, Lieutenant General Benjamin R. Madrigal Jr., will continue what he had worked on and even make the armed forces of the Philippines soar towards greater achievements.
To our honoree General Galvez, sir, the officers, men and women, and civilian personnel of the Armed Forces of the Philippines proudly wish you all the best. Congratulations, more power, and Godspeed.
Ladies and gentlemen, the various contingents of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, ang mga makabagong katipunero, makadiyos, makakalikasan, makatao at makabansa.
Leading the parading